June 14th, 1944. Somewhere near the bocage of Normandy, France. The humid air is thick with the scent of damp earth and diesel exhaust. Private Arthur Shilstone wipes the sweat from his brow, his fingers stained not with grease or gunpowder, but with charcoal and turpentine. Around him, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, a motley collection of artists, architects, and sound engineers, are moving with a frantic, quiet intensity. In the distance, the low rumble of German 88mm artillery echoes through the valley, a reminder that the real war is only a few miles away. But here, in a clearing shielded by thick hedgerows, a different kind of combat is being prepared. "Easy on the valves," a sergeant whispers. A sudden hiss of compressed air cuts through the chirping of crickets. Before Shilstone's eyes, a limp mass of olive-drab rubber begins to groan and expand. It rises from the mud like a prehistoric beast waking from a slumber. In less than 20 minutes, what was once a 90-pound bundle of fabric has transformed into a M4 Sherman tank. From 50 yards away, the silhouette is perfect. The turret sits heavy on the chassis. The 75mm gun stares menacingly toward the German lines. Shilstone walks over and lifts the front of the 30-ton beast with one hand. It bounces slightly in the breeze. If the 2nd Panzer Division sees this from the air, Shilstone mutters to a fellow illustrator, they're going to think Patton himself just landed in their backyard. This is the birth of the Ghost Army. Their weapons are not bullets, but 93-ounce canvas covers, pneumatic pumps, and the terrifying power of suggestion. They are a traveling roadshow of deception. And tonight, they are tasked with holding a line that doesn't actually exist. The mission is simple, but suicidal. Be seen, be heard, and pray the Germans don't realize they are shooting at balloons. Nearby, the sonic technicians, the heavies, are positioning massive 500-pound speakers mounted on the back of half-tracks. They are unspooling miles of cable, preparing to play the symphony of steel. These aren't just random noises. They are wire recordings of real armored divisions captured during training in Fort Knox. The sound of clanking treads, the coughing of engines, the shouting of non-existent NCOs. As the sun dips below the horizon, the deception begins. And the visual artists camouflage their rubber decoys just enough to make them look like they are trying to be hidden, a classic psychological bait. They know that if a position looks too perfect, the German intelligence officers will smell a rat. It has to look like a real, slightly messy American encampment. "Light 'em up," the commander orders. The sonic heaters roar to life. The sound of a massive armored column begins to vibrate through the trees, projecting a wall of noise that carries 15 miles into the German-held woods. To the enemy scouts peering through binoculars across the valley, a terrifying force of American steel is assembling under the cover of darkness. In reality, there is nothing behind the hedgerow but a few dozen artists and a collection of inflatable toys. June 15th, 1944. 200 hours. A darkened command post near the front line. Captain Fred Fox adjusts his headset, listening to the rhythmic thrum of the wire recorders. The sonic deception unit is in full swing. To anyone within earshot, it sounds like the 2nd Armored Division is constructing a bridge across a nearby river. You can hear the rhythmic clink, clink, clink of hammers on metal, the splashing of water, and the strained revving of heavy-duty truck engines. "We've got a bite," Fox whispers, pointing to a radio operator hunched over a Signal Corps receiver. The German radio interceptors have picked up the spoof traffic. This is the 3rd prong of the Ghost Army's attack. Radio deception. Operators like Fox have spent months studying the fists, the unique typing styles, of Morse code operators in real combat units. They mimic the slight hesitations and specific speeds of the 2nd Armored's actual radio men, weaving a complex web of fake orders, supply requests, and troop movements. To the German Abwehr, military intelligence, the airwaves are screaming that a major offensive is imminent at this exact coordinate. But the deception isn't just happening in the airwaves or through the speakers. It's happening on the ground, in the bars and cafes of nearby French villages. Earlier that evening, a group of ghost soldiers entered a local tavern in a nearby town. They wore the hell-on-wheels shoulder patches of the 2nd Armored Division, patches they had painstakingly sewn on in secret. They sat at the tables, ordered wine, and spoke in hushed, nervous tones about the big move coming at dawn. And they knew the town was crawling with stay-behind German spies and collaborators. The atmosphere has to be perfect. Sergeant Victor Dowd whispers to a recruit as they drive a lone 2.5-ton truck in a continuous, dusty loop through the village square. They've painted fake bumper markings on the truck to indicate it belongs to a massive convoy. By driving the same 3 trucks in a circle for 4 hours, they create the illusion of an endless stream of reinforcements flowing toward the front. From a distance, a German observer records the passage of hundreds of vehicles. Suddenly, the ground shakes. A flash of light illuminates the horizon, followed by the screech of incoming shells. The Germans have taken the bait. A battery of 105mm howitzers begins to rain steel down upon the field of inflatable tanks. "To get down!" Shilstone yells, diving into a slit trench as a shell detonates 50 yards away. A piece of shrapnel tears through the air and slices into a rubber Sherman tank. There is no explosion of fuel or ammunition. Instead, the tank emits a pathetic, high-pitched wheeze as the air escapes, its turret slowly wilting toward the mud like a dying flower. The men of the 23rd don't retreat. They stay in their foxholes, watching their army take the punishment meant for real soldiers. Every shell that hits a balloon is a shell that won't hit a living American 20 miles to the south. But as the barrage intensifies, the line between acting and dying becomes terrifyingly thin. If the Germans send a patrol to investigate the wreckage, the charade is over. And the artist will be facing panzers with nothing but paintbrushes and pistols. March 20th, 1945. Viersen, Germany. The war is entering its final, bloody act. The Rhine River, the last great natural barrier protecting the German heartland, looms ahead. To the south, the 9th Army is preparing a massive crossing, but they need the German defenders to look elsewhere. The Ghost Army is handed their most audacious script yet. Operation Viersen. We aren't just faking a battalion this time, Colonel Harry Reeder tells his officers, unrolling a map of the Rhine. We are faking the entire 30th and 79th Infantry Divisions. That's 30,000 men who don't exist. The scale is staggering. For the next week, the 1,100 men of the 23rd must convince the German 1st Parachute Army that a massive assault is coming at Viersen, while the real crossing is planned 10 miles away at Wesel. The air is cold and biting as Private Jack Macy oversees the deployment of the Big Show. They aren't just using tanks now. They are building entire fake airfields. Using wood, burlap, and paint, they construct Thunderbolt fighters that look lethal from the sky, but would collapse under a stiff breeze. They set up fake supply depots, stacking empty crates to look like mountains of ammunition. They even light smudge pots at night to mimic the low-burning fires of thousands of shivering infantrymen. But the most dangerous part of the trick is the special effects, the human element. Ghost army soldiers are sent into the nearby woods to set up fake motor pools. They use a theatrical approach to sound, playing records of heavy bridge-building equipment while real engineers, only a handful of them, actually hammer on metal pipes to provide the sharp, metallic clank that recorded sound sometimes loses. They're watching, Macy whispers, looking through the trees toward the Rhine. Across the water, German observers are meticulously counting the U.S. trucks moving through the sector. To sell the lie, the Ghost Army creates a mobile radio setup that moves constantly, simulating the chaotic chatter of two full divisions preparing for a river crossing. They even use flash and sound units, small pyrotechnics designed to mimic the muzzle flashes of heavy artillery, to trick the Germans into thinking the American big guns are already in position and registered. The tension is a physical weight. If the Germans realize the ruse, they could sweep across the river and annihilate the 23rd in an afternoon. The artists are perched on a razor's edge, holding the attention of the German high command, with nothing but smoke, mirrors, and sheer gall. On the night of March 23rd, the German artillery opens up with a devastating roar. They are targeting the Viersen sector, pouring thousands of rounds into the empty fields and rubber decoys. The Ghost Army has succeeded. While the German guns are focused on the ghosts, the real Ninth Army slips across the Rhine at Wesel with almost no resistance. The war is won by a trick. Decades later, when the files were finally declassified in 1996, the world would learn that this handful of actors and artists saved as many as 30,000 lives. They were a unit of heroes who never fired a shot in anger, and proving that in the theater of war, the greatest weapon isn't always the one that explodes. It's the one that makes the enemy believe it's there. End of Hören